Alright, welcome back everyone to another World Pokemon Federation Draft League video. We are here for our Week 1 matchup against Nick. And I'm very excited to be covering this. I think I haven't done this in a long ass time. But yeah, we're here for our Week 1 matchup. I'm going to just be covering kind of like my ideas and thought process going into the build. What I thought. I should bring kind of the edits and then actually go over the build, what I ultimately decided to land on, what I changed from, and then we'll hop right into the actual replay of the match, as the match has already been played at this point in time. So why don't we just cover the matchup? It's right here on the screen already. My team is on the left in the blue, and Nick's team is on the right in green. So Nick drafted a very interesting team. I believe I was the first person to pick in the draft, while Nick was the second. If I'm not mistaken. I think he was second, yes. He has some very scary threats. The first two in particular are incredibly annoying to switch into, let alone are there even switch-ins to these Pokemon. So he's got Chien-Pao, Reggie ELEKI with Terra, Galar Slowking, Ursaluna, Volcanion, Rillaboom, Noivern, Orthworm, Dachshund, Dracloak, and Kricketune. So the first thing I looked at when I saw this matchup were the first two mons, the Chien-Pao and the Reggie ELEKI. He can hit me on both fronts of offense, and Reggie ELEKI basically facilitates everything on his team, and it's incredibly scary, and it's really hard to punish or prevent from facilitating the rest of the team. To me, it's similar to a bundle Dragapult, just an ultimate revenge killer slash momentum getter into an actual threat on your team. So I went through all the scenarios and I just convinced myself Reggie ELEKI is most likely going to lead. If you look at my squad, on the left, I have one immunity to Volt Switch, and that is Donphan. But Donphan, even with max special defense Assault Vest, is going to get absolutely blown back by like a Terra Water, a Terra Grass, or a Terra Ice. I feel like he would be one of those typings. He could try to opt to go for like Terra Ghost, something neutral to at least hit other things and be immune to extreme speed. But I ultimately I do think he'll be Ice, Grass, or Water. And that was my thought process when starting the build. And so if he's going to be facilitating, he can basically, with the Terra typing, Donphan is a non-factor. He can Volt Switch for free, and that was the main issue. The rest, outside of Chien-Pao and Reggie ELEKI, and then even the Noivern, his team is relatively slow, and a lot of it relies on this out of positioning that Reggie ELEKI basically gives him. If I opt not to bring Donphan, or if I do bring Donphan, I don't even want to bring it in because I can't really switch in. The minute he predicts me with a Terra Blast, it's essentially getting two-shot and it's going to die. So I have to be creative here and find other avenues to try and work around Reggie ELEKI's Volt Switch while also being able to pivot into a secondary Terra stab. So luckily I do have Iron Hands. Iron Hands is also very good at pivoting to Reggie ELEKI. If it's like a leftovers Spadef set, it can switch into it, but it doesn't stop Volt Switch, and that's the main concern. So the only way I can get around that is if I had an eject button, or something like that. I've played Reggie ELEKI before with Klefki, and I've brought two different types of Klefkis versus Reggie ELEKI. I brought screens with eject button to facilitate my offense, and then the one that I found the most effective is something that we'll use later, which was Trick Lagging Tail. But for now, the main thing I was trying to look for was, can I actually pivot into this mon? And so there's a lot of naturally fat Pokemon on my team: Hands, Dragonite, Screamtail, even Arcanine. With Morning Sun, it could technically be some type of defensive set if I really wanted it to be. So I I have a lot of options here. It's just about finding what's the most comfortable. I wasn't comfortable using Dragonite because if he's Terra Ice, it just blows me back. And that was actually the Terra type I thought he would be bringing, most likely. It's immune to Bundle's ice moves, which Freeze Dry is pretty decent. Ice Beam in general actually is a pretty good click outside of the Volcanion. That's why I said Freeze Dry. It's a neutral hit on Iron Hands. It's super effective on Dragonite. It just makes it so Dragonite is like effectively not a switch in. It hits Donphan super effectively, so it checks off one of the Grass, Water, Ice Terra types, and it still hits everything else neutrally or super effective outside of, you know, Bundle and Arcanine, which it can Volt Switch on, so it doesn't matter. So I'm convinced at this point he's gonna be Ice. He could be Water, he could be Grass, whatever. But off lead, I don't really have anything that can sway or kind of just push us away, unless I led Donphan. But I didn't really want to lead Donphan because it needs Assault Vest in order to actually do anything, or it's got to be like an Endeavor Sturdy set, potentially, as a way to like get around it and you can Ice Shard. But he's like Extreme Speed, then it's a little something, but maybe you could trade if you run like a Helmet Sturdy lead. But I'd assume Regieleki would not fall for that, and he would just try to get up rocks and do it that way. And then I looked as well. He only has one Hazard Setter on his entire team. Ursaluna does not get rocks or spikes. Orthworm is the only one. And so if he decides to bring Orthworm, I guess that's going to be his way of regulating, you know, Donphan. You can run like a Helmet set or whatever. It could semi-check Dragonite, Meowscarada, but not much else. So if you did want to bring it, I could find ways to abuse Orthworm while not worrying too much about hazards. So a lot of my team, even though they're hazard weak mons, I didn't really run heavy duty boots on them, bar one Pokemon. But that was just due to not needing another item in particular. So yeah, that was my thought process. Contain the Regieleki off lead, then I can build the rest of the team around it. Find a way to pivot into Chien-Pao, Ursaluna, and then also Volcanion. Because Volcanion can be very annoying with Steam Eruption or Scald. It can burn a lot of my physical threats like Hands, or even Dragonite. And I think Dragonite, in order to function here, needs to be physical. Otherwise, it can't get around a potential Spadef AV Slowking, which I feel like is going to be his best response to Bundle on his team. So I'd have to see and structure the team around that. So first it was about finding the lead. I think I dabbled between like Spadef Hands, Fizdef Hands for like Chien-Pao, Fizdef Screamtail with screens was an idea. Then obviously the AV Donphan, the Boots Sturdy Donphan, or like Helmet Donphan with like Endeavor and Knockoff and stuff like that. But the more I was looking at it, the more I realized I need to rely on having decent checks to some mons that they just don't outright sweep me. Priority, which is crucial versus Chien-Pao and Regieleki. And Stealth Rocks, which is crucial chip against Regieleki and Chien-Pao in particular, if it is Choice Banded or Life Orb, whatever it wants to be. If it's not Boots, it's not as strong, it's way easier to check. But if it is banded, getting that Stealth Rock chip is going to be incredibly massive for me. It allows me to put it into certain ranges for certain priority mons and other mons that it might try to pivot into. And we'll get into that with the actual build. And then I also dabbled maybe with Sableye, like a Balloon Sableye for Ursaluna. It can take on both, it'll be immune to both stabs. And I had no idea if he was going to bring a third coverage move, because he could run like SD or bulk up with Earthquake, Facade with Guts, and then run like a Trailblaze potentially. Trailblaze was pretty scary, but the more I was looking at it, I had no idea. I wasn't really going to have a switch into this mon, period, because I needed Sableye to also pivot into Slowking, as well as potentially even be my pivot into Volcanion if it is Spadef, which means if it's not defensive, it's not going to switch into Ursaluna regardless. So I was in a pretty awkward position for it. And then the other mon that I was afraid of potentially coming was Dachshund. Dachshund, while I personally do not find this mon to be very good, I think it's pretty bad. It's reliable in the sense that it's immune to the Flare Blitz from Arcanine, which is another good stab since both dual stabs can be pretty good versus it. It can run like Helmet with Wish, and I can't really break it that easily. It can handle both Arcanine, Dragonite hands, and then if I give it the Well-Baked Body boost with Flare Blitz, you can start spamming Body Press, which is pretty bad for me as well. It's one of the better switch-ins to Sableye as well if I wanted to bring that. So there was a lot of things with it, but I knew Dachshunds really couldn't do anything to both Screamtail and Bundle, depending on the set. And then if I got Chip on it, Dragonite should be able to do its job. So basically, structure is find a lead for ELEKI, contain the threats of POW, Ursaluna, and Volcanion, and then find ways to get around. Find ways to get around the Dachshund, like pivoting into it, even though it's not that strong. And then the Slowking, because since Slowking, while I do expect Assault Vest, so it won't have recovery, it'll still be very annoying to damage. But yeah, why don't we get right into the build? That was my thoughts on the matchup, but this is what it ultimately ended up bringing. So you can see the first mon that ended up bringing was Sableye, and I mentioned earlier the Lagging Tail set from Klefki that I used to bring against, that I brought against a ELEKI in a different league. It was very effective off of lead, instantly crippled ELEKI. It was useless for the rest of the game. Everything outsped it, couldn't do anything, and it was basically a non-threat. Similar idea here, lead Sableye, kind of use it to check everything on the team as best as I can. I don't think he's going to lead with like a Dosh Buns or anything. And if he does want to lead with like any Scarfers, I could also Lagging Tail that. Because the less Scarfers there are, the more effective Iron Bundle is going to be. Since Iron Bundle outspeeds Chien-Pao by 1 base point, the only thing that can outspeed it is Scarfers and ELEKI. So yeah, you have a Spadef Sableye, meant to take hits from the ELEKI. You can take Terra Blast. Doesn't get 2-shot by Volt Switch. So if you went Terra Blast and the Volt Switch on me, sequence-wise, I should be able to trick it the first turn, and then potentially either exchange damage with Foul Play or recover, or I could switch out into any of my other mons and then force it out with pressure that way. But yeah, cripple ELEKI is all I want. So that's why this is here. I really couldn't find any other lead set that worked. I tried like Terra Ice Scarf Iron Bundle, but it really didn't do anything for me. It wasn't that good. It relied on me like predicting him to cover Terra types that were not Ice, but Ice to me seemed the most effective. So I just scrapped that, and I'm like, I need Bundle to actually like revenge stuff and break, not be weak to rocks. If he does decide to bring rocks, and then we'll go from there. So Sableye's my lead. This can pivot into Volcanion as well. Especially since I think Volcanion's going to be Spadef, so it's not going to have a lot of offensive presence to it, so I should be able to take it on fairly well, and just kind of, I could steal its item later if I do trick the Lagging Tail. If he's not boots, I can just take the boots away. That'll help me out, help my bundle out later. And then I added a little bit of speed. I had no idea how fast Ursaluna it's going to be. It's either going to be hitting like base 205 speed, I think, where 2 Trailblazes would make it outspeed Bundle, and it would outspeed everything on my team. Or he was gonna run fat, no bulk, and then I could potentially just foul play him. I could taunt him to prevent him from setting up, stuff like that, and then obviously recover. If necessary, I can stall things out, especially behind screens versus like Slowking or Volcanion. But yeah, that's the lead. Hopefully it works versus like ELEKI. If he scouts it, that's pretty bad, but at least we're like giving something else a pretty detrimental item. And I didn't want to run knockoff as well, even though knockoff would have been really useful here for any boot spawns. I didn't want to knock off the lagging tail if he decided to pivot in and try to get rid of it. So foul play is good. If Chi and Pao tries to set up with Swords Dance, foul play will two-shot as well. So I have ways to get around that, and it would put it in priority range. But yeah, that's Sableye. Next we have Iron Bundle. I went around many different sets. I think I had like the Scarf Terra Ice, like I mentioned. I tried to think of like maybe Terra Ground, so I can hit both Volcanion and Galar Slowking, which were the only two like switch-ins to the stabs really on his team. And yeah, there wasn't a whole lot he could switch into for this mon. And so I was like, ground could be good, but if he brings Noivern or like Orthworm, for example, which is immune to ground moves, it would make it pretty tough to predict. So I was like, what's the most neutral move that can at least hit Slowking? Because Volcanion has no recovery, so any damage I do to it is going to stick, so I don't necessarily have to hit this super effectively. I need to hit the Galar Slowking. So I ultimately went with Terra Dark over Terra Ghost, so I'm not weak to Sucker Punch from Chi and Pao. Dark also would resist the Sucker Punch. It would force him to probably click an Ice move guaranteed, which is way easier to pivot around, in my opinion. So yeah, we ran Choice Specs, just simple Breaker, Revenger, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Terra Blast, U-Turn. I'm not running Flip Turn because of the Water Absorbed Volcanion, so I'm going to run U-Turn. Don't really see myself ever clicking it unless I'm in a position where he's like behind screens or something, and I might have to work around that, but I'm never going to click Hydro Pump unless I have to, which would probably be versus Chi and Pao if I needed to assess the threat and just one-shot it. But for the most part, I'm always clicking Terra Blast. There's like I said, there's absolutely no switch in. Chi and Pao resists, but if it takes rocks, it's getting two-shot. ELEKI's gonna die. Ursaluna's gonna take a lot. Even then, any chip on this is good for me. It's easier to revenge. Volcanion will take around like 40% if it's max Spadef. If it's not, it's gonna get two-shot. Slowking, I two-shot after Stealth Rocks, which is why I think Stealth Rocks are very important, not just for the Slowking calc, but obviously Chi and Pao taking chip, revealing its item, ELEKI taking chip for priority. It will show me the Volcanion item as well, which I do think it should be boots. Chip on Dosh Funds if he brings that, stuff like that. But yeah, the only other resist to Dark that outside of Chi and Pao, the only resist to Dark he has is this Dosh Fund, which takes like, I think, 35-40% from Terra Blast Dark. So it's really not a switch in, and I'm forcing him to click Wish rather than, Play Rough or Baton Pass, Momentum, whatever. So forcing him to actually recover, and then I can pressure him out and say, I can go Screamtail, and then I can do what I need to do with Screamtail. But yeah, or I can go Arcanine, whatever. But I probably want to be safe about the body presses. But yeah, that's Bundle. Pretty simple. Revenger, Breaker, breaks his walls down, gets the chip damage, and then I can preserve it throughout the game, especially if he doesn't get rocks up, and I can Terra right away. And I think I added Ice Beam in the off chance I weaken Slowking enough, or I remove Volcanion. I can just click Ice Beam and just kind of plow through the rest of his team. But for the most part, I think I'm really only clicking Terra Blast here. But yeah. So the next mon I want to get into is the Hisuian Arcanine. I originally started off going with Choice Band on this set, and then I slowly realized how much I needed rocks, and originally I did have Donphan on this build, and you'll see Donphan is not on this build. But I originally had Donphan on this build with Assault Vest, so I didn't have another rocker on this team, and I'm like, I don't really want to be choice locked versus things on his team like Ursaluna. The Dosh Buns I can't really lock into a fire move, and it could be potentially dangerous to allow him to have like free setup, especially for Ursaluna in particular. and I didn't think it was valuable to lock myself into a particular move, so I just went with no ban, no Scarf for the same reasons. Even though it can revenge Chien-Pao, it doesn't outspeed ELEKI. It's not strong enough versus anything else really to warrant locking into a move. So I just figured there's no point. So I'll just run dual stabs, extreme speed. Priority is really good for Chien-Pao, ELEKI, like I said, and then Stealth Rock. I needed Stealth Rocks. So originally I was gonna lead this with Focus Sash for like potential Terra Water, ELEKI or whatever, and just get up rocks, or I guess Head Smash ELEKI and then get up rocks, depending on what came in. I would just sack it off. So that was my original set. Then I changed to the Sableye lead. So now Arcanine, I just put boots on it. If he does bring Earthworm, I kind of want to have this longevity, not having to like take damage and stuff, or if I have to pivot into say like a Slowking on some turns, just to be able to like pressure it, and knowing he will not click a water move, I could get it in, I could set up rocks, pressure him out, especially if he doesn't know my item. Like I could be choice banned and I could just one-shot him, because max HP Slowking does not take banded Head Smash like very well, if at all. Pretty sure it dies after rocks, but that's the set. Basically it's just here for rocks, and then it can pressure Dachshund, it can pressure Earthworm, it can pressure Galar Slowking, Volcanion. It's faster than all of those mons. I'm faster than max speed Volcanion. It's faster than Ursaluna. It can take on Noivern as well. Chien-Pao, I think, can kill it with Sacred Sword. Crunch might one-shot me as well, but I think I live with Sucker Punch, which was another reason to have boots, so I don't take rocks and put myself into priority range. And then obviously ELEKI, I don't think ELEKI killed me in one hit either, unless he was Life Orb, but if the point was to trick it, then that should be okay. So yeah, that's it. That's what Arcanine is. I'll go down to the next three, as you can see on your screen. I'm actually going to skip the Screamtail. I'm going to go to the Dragonite first. This is the only set that did not change since the initial build. So my initial build included this Dragonite set. Outside, I was debating two moves, but I ultimately decided on one. As you can see, it's a Life Orb set with max attack Adamant. It has enough speed for Ursaluna. Well, max speed Ursaluna. I believe that's the speed tier, yeah. I think Volcanion's going to be defensive, so I didn't bother creeping that. It's not like it could do much to me regardless. And then I just threw the rest in bulk. I think the EVs in particular, for HP and like the summon defense, that has nothing to do with any calc. That was just so I had an HP number that ended in 9. So my Life Orb would do optimal Life Orb damage. So yeah, I'm running 0 stabs on this. It's just Life Orb with Earthquake, Low Kick, Extreme Speed, and Dragon Dance. This is mainly going to be a nice breaker, or potential even like cleaner if necessary, with Life Orb Extreme Speed. It's mainly here to do massive damage to break down his walls. Very similar to Bundle, but on the physical side. I should be able to take on and abuse like Slowking. I can kill it with Earthquake after rocks if he's max HP. Ursaluna, max HP, will die to a +1 low kick. Yeah, it should just die to a +1 low kick. Dachshund, I need chip damage. I'm pretty sure my Earthquake does 50% to it. So if I can get it to around half, that will also be in range. Earthworm dies to a low kick at +1 as well. And then Noivern needs some chip damage for extreme speed to actually kill it. But I find that I might be able to pressure it enough all game that it might... I don't even know if he brings Noivern, but we'll see. But yeah, that's a set. I was debating if I run Ice Spinner over Low Kick, wondering if he would bring Noivern or Earthworm, but the more I saw it, I saw incentive for him having a ground immunity, like directly, that could heal with Earthworm, gives him hazards. Noivern, to me, its speed tier is pretty awkward, since it's outsped by Bundle. Its speed ties with Meowscarada, it like doesn't pressure much of anything else, because everything can take a hit and just kill it back. So I ultimately went with low kick and just opted not to have a way to hit Noivern outside of extreme speed, because I figure I can find ways to chip it. But this should be able to break mid-game to late game / clean if I want to, like, I know I'm not going to kill him on, I just preserve it, save it for extreme speed later. But yeah, that was the original Dragon Knight set that I made. Sorry if I'm talking fast, I'm just trying to get the thoughts out of my head as I go. But yeah, I'm going to go back to the Screamtail now. So this originally was the Donphan slot, and on that version of the team, Sableye was still a air balloon for my Ursaluna, or for the Ursaluna. But the more I was looking at it, the more I just couldn't. I was like, I really don't switch into Ursaluna regardless. The minute the balloon's broken, Sableye's not switching into it, and I needed to have the switch into Galar Slowking and the Volcanion. So I opted to just bring a more Fizdef Screamtail that can its main purpose was to switch into Banded Chien-Pao. It can live Banded Ice Spinner, and Banded Crunch without Rocks Up. It will live 2 of them, guaranteed. But if you brought Icicle Crash, that can 2-shot me, but at least I can pivot around using a non-Terra bundle or like a Hisuian Arcanine. But Screamtail, I debated the moves to run on this. I think at one point I had Psychic Fangs for his own screens if he wanted to bring them on like ELEKI. I was afraid of like a ELEKI lead potentially with screens with like Volt Switch and Terra Blast. I had Wish, obviously I had Encore at some point, but then the more I was looking at it, I was like, I really like screens here. He really doesn't have a way to remove them outside of Noivern defogging, which would remove his own hazards for me. Or he brings like a Brick Break, like Rillaboom or something, or Ursaluna, and then like Psychic Fangs Chien-Pao, but I'm bringing Dark-type Sableye and then Terra Dark Bundle. I thought I should be able to contain Psychic Fangs at the very least, and Brick Break is not very reliable, and I didn't think Rillaboom was that great into this matchup. It was kind of setup fodder for Dragonite, and it didn't really do anything much to Screamtail if I could get a Reflect Up, and he was slow. So I figured this Screamtail is good, just bulky. I gave it some speed to outspeed Volcanion. So outside of his incredibly faster threats, I should outspeed basically everything else. Get an insured designated screen for that particular mon that's in front of me. So whether it be Light Screen or Reflect. But yeah, I originally had Encore over Light Screen, but I saw some issues switching into Galar Slowking and Volcanion, so I was like, okay, I'll add Light Screen over Encore. I don't see myself ever clicking Encore versus anything, really. Like, it doesn't do anything. And his recovery was pretty mid outside of, Dachshund Wish passing and his regen Slowking. So I just ran Gleam. It 2-shot Chien-Pao, which is what I needed it to do. All I needed it to do. And Wish. Wish would allow me to... I could sit on things with the screens up and Wish up, kill it. Also Wish pass into something if I needed to, like, say pivot in the bundle and heal bundle, pivot into hands or Dragonite, or Sableye can heal it up, even Arcanine. So I figured it's pretty reliable. Could get up screens and then just do my thing. That's basically all I was here for. It's holding the light play for those extended turns. I would just have to watch out for him potentially knocking off my, I guess my item. The only thing that really had knockoff is Rillaboom, and again, I don't think Rillaboom should come in this matchup. I think it's pretty underwhelming. So yeah, let's move on to the last mon. We're almost at 30 minutes long. Wow. The last mon is Iron Hands. So this went through a lot of sets, but the original set was a Pyappa Fizdef Iron Hands, like max defense with almost max HP, with some speed, and Spadef had no attack investment at all, and I think it was Impish Nature. So that was the original set. It was Drain Punch, Earthquake, Swords Dance, and I don't believe it was Heavy Slam. I think it was Ice Punch for Noivern. But the more I was looking at it, the more I thought Noivern really wasn't that amazing here anyways, and I could like Heavy Slam into Drain Punch and heal. So I figured Heavy Slam was much better to hit Dash Buns, which I kind of convinced myself was going to come at this point, so I'd rather be well prepared for it. But yeah, ultimately I did try to change it to like a Spadef lefties once I dropped Donphan on the team, and then I was like, you know what, I'd rather have more insurances for the Chien Pao at this point, because I'm going all in with the Sableye tricking the Lagging Tail onto the ELEKI. I think he might not scout that, and he'll just... Because like at that point, what is he really going to switch into? Like Dashman, like his ELEKI thinks he can just click Volt Switch versus Sableye, right? And get in Dashman. So his first instinct will be to Volt Switch. So I can get a trick Lagging Tail off on him. That was the whole premise. So I wasn't too concerned. Plus, under a light screen, Iron Hands is going to be able to take on any type of ELEKI, unless he ends up being like Terra Psychic or something. But even then, I had Pyappa Berry to cover both not only the Slowking, but mainly the Chien Pao with Psychic Fangs, which would break the screens. But yeah, ultimately I kind of swayed from a fully maxed defense set, mainly because I wasn't sure what speed his Ursaluna was going to be. And that was the main issue I was having, reason why I was forcing Balloon Sableye onto my builds. But with screens up, I should be able to take it, and for the most part, I should be able to revenge it with anything. Like, Bundle should be able to revenge it. This thing can chip it. This thing can set up screens. This thing will kill it with low kick if he's chipped in any way, shape, or form. So the way I was looking at it was, if he is a Trailblaze set with Ursaluna, he needs to hit 205 speed to outspeed Iron Bundle, which hits 409. So he would hit 410 at +2 with Trailblaze, which was possible to do. I mean, he would be able to use Sableye, gut in versus like a Balloon Sableye, Swords Dance with like Trailblaze if I didn't carry Encore, which I originally did, but I changed the taunt because it was better to kind of neuter recovery across his team, set up on Slowking, whatever. Or even if he led with Orthworm, I could taunt that and prevent him from setting hazards or shed tailing. So all of this coupled into the Iron Hand set, and I realized I needed to make it faster. So I came up with a jolly, almost max speed Iron Hands. It hits 206 speed. It guarantee outspeeds the Ursaluna that hits 205 that I'm afraid of. Obviously, if I ran complete max speed and Ursaluna ran complete max speed, we would speed tie. But there was a chance that Ursaluna favored the bulk because of Dragonite and because of Arcanine. So, because he really didn't have another switch into Arcanine head smash outside of Ursaluna. It was the only thing that could potentially take 2 hits. The only other way I could hit him was like close combat, which wasn't that strong anyways, and I didn't really want to click that versus his team, take the drops. So I figured I would run this fast version. It would outspeed a Ursaluna that was offensive. It would outspeed a bulky Volcanion and already outspeed Slowking. Dashbun would outspeed me, but I would be able to hit it with Heavy Slam, and I'd still have a lot of defense investment to take a hit, and behind a screen, it's going to be doing nothing. Obviously, Noivern has Infiltrator. I would probably just have to play around Noivern if it came. I would use Arcanine probably as my pivot to the flying move, because I doubt he clicks Draco. But yeah, there was that. Hands outspeeds Orthworm. And then so the only things that actually outsped it would probably be Chien Pao, ELEKI, or actually a fast Volcanion, which I just couldn't see anyways. With the light screen up, I could just Drain Punch him or Earthquake him, whatever. And then Rillaboom, I mean, I'm Fizz Def, and especially with behind screens, like, it's not going to do anything. It's really just ELEKI and Pao. ELEKI I wasn't scared of, because even without screens, I could take a hit, Drain Punch him at +2, and I would one-shot, I'll get all that HP back. Pal, I don't even need the boost. I can just Drain Punch him and kill him. Psychic Fangs, if he was banded, did less than half to this handset with Pyappa Berry. If he opted to just go for like Choice Banded Icicle Crash, that did I think roughly like 30 to 35%, something along that line, to hands if he was choice banded with Reflect Up. So I knew I could potentially work around it with hands not having to be max defense, is what I was saying. And the speed would allow me to not ever be pressured out by Ursaluna, I felt, for the most part. Depending on what his item is, though, if he wasn't like Guts or Flame Orb, then his damage output was far less. Screens up, I could just Drain Punch and kind of just power through him. But yeah, that was basically the team. Lead Sableye, Bundle is a Revenger Breaker of Slowking Volcanion. Arcanine gets up rocks. If switching to Noivern or Slowking at times and just kind of pressure. Extreme Speed is there. Screamtail sets screens, wishes things up, wishes itself up, and also pressures the opposing team. Dragonite is a breaker, mid-game breaker, end-game sweeper, or a cleaner with just extreme speed life orb. And then hands ultimately is kind of just the win con. It can kind of just sit on his team and start breaking through everything, especially if I've gotten the necessary chip. Heavy Slam can one-shot max defense Dachshund at +2. Basically, I one-shot everything at +2. But yeah, the only interesting thing would be him like pivoting to Earthworm. Weird, it'd be weird, but like it wouldn't do anything. And then if he brought Terrain Rillaboom, which I don't think Rillaboom is good here, so I really don't see him bringing it. So I'm just gonna bring Earthquake. It still hits Slowking the hardest for me. If I'm +2, Heavy Slam does more than Earthquake, funny enough, but I figured it was worthwhile because I just couldn't see Rillaboom coming anyways. It hits Volcanion harder as well. So yeah, this is the team. But yeah, why don't we hop right into the match and go from there. All right, welcome to the replay that we have pulled up here. As you can see, I have a nice little custom overlay that a friend gave me. Shout out Starcry. But yeah, my team is the one that we see the backside of. It's also on the left side bar, and then our opponent is Nick. Unload to reload. He has the team on the far right, and as you can see on the top layer there. So he ended up bringing Chien-Pao, Dachshund, Volcanion, Rillaboom, Galar Slowking, and Ursaluna. So the first thing I saw, no Regieleki, blew my mind. I could not believe there was no Regieleki on my screen. The thing that gave me the most trouble and prep, the biggest mind headache, did not come. What did he bring instead? That I expected the other 5. I expected Regieleki. He brought Rillaboom instead. So by seeing this, I kind of just assumed it was Choice Scarf, maybe, because like he had nothing else for bundle. Because Pal doesn't outspeed. Dachshund was for sure not going to be some Scarf set. That would not be good. Ursaluna doesn't even outspeed bundle with Scarf. It needs 2 Trailblazes. So I'm like, if this Rillaboom is Scarf, it has to be Scarf. But I need to scout it. And I can do that with Grassy Terrain Recovery. If I get Rocks Chip on it and I have taken damage with something else, like Bundle, for example, I can tell in that regard, or I can maybe even use, well, nothing else really. So yeah, I debated changing my lead since there was no ELEKI, but I figured if he wanted to stop an early bundle, he would just lead with, like I said, the Regieleki roll, which was a Scarf Rillaboom. So I just expected him to probably lead Rillaboom, so I just led Sableye, because it's not like he can kill me, and he doesn't really want to stay in and click a Grass move, because I have Dragonite, and he has no idea what Dragonite is. He could click Knockoff, for example. So if he is Scarf, I could trick him, and then he would knock off the Scarf the subsequent turn. If he U-turns, he can just stay in and U-turn. I trick him, I remove his Scarf that way. But yeah, I ultimately decide to lead with my Sableye. You see he does lead with that Rillaboom. So this tells me, to me, I think it's Scarf, but I still need confirmation here. But he ultimately decides to switch as I trick the Dachshund, that incoming Dachshund. So as we can see here, I now get his Rocky Helmet, which is actually pretty good for me. It helps my Dragonite, it helps my hands, even my Arcanine here. It's going a little too quick here. But yeah, I remove his Rocky Helmet. I give him a Lagging Tail, which is huge for me because, like I said, there were only 2 Mons, potentially 3, that outsped hands. Doshbun, Chien-Pao, Regieleki, and then maybe a Max Speed Volcanion. Volcanion, I think, is bulky, so I should outspeed that. Chien-Pao, I'll never outspeed, if I can live its hits. Regieleki, I don't outspeed, if I can live its hits. Doshbun, I don't outspeed. And so, the fact that now it's guaranteed going to be slower than everything on my team makes hands even more effective, which was pretty good positive for me. But yeah, I trick that. He ends up bringing in... I end up going into my Screamtail as he clicks Charm. I guess Charm was... So this, to me, tells me it's his dedicated check to, like, Iron Hands and Dragonite, which is good to know. I assume he probably runs Wish, Play Rough, maybe, like, Protect, or Baton Pass. Baton Pass would allow him to actually facilitate his Chien-Pao, which seems to be his immediate form of offense outside of Ursaluna. So we have to be careful about that. But he brings in... So I bring in Screamtail. As he decides to just go hard into Gallic Slowking, I knew he probably wouldn't risk taking damage or just immediately wants to pressure Screamtail. So I end up going for a Reflect in the case he wanted to go into anything else, but like the Ursaluna, for example. But ultimately decided to go for both screens here and see what his Slowking wanted to go for, as he went for Acid Spray here. And so that's a pretty cool bring on his part. It allows him to kind of just pressure through bulkier variants of my team, like Sableye. If it was like a Combine Sableye, Combine Screamtail wouldn't really beat this, but like a fatter Screamtail, even like a bulkier Dragonite. So I assume he probably carries like Ice Beam, Acid Spray. At this point, I thought maybe Sludge Bomb. He doesn't really need a Psychic move. Well, I guess he could run a Psychic move for Iron Hands. But the fact that he has Acid Spray to me tells me, okay, he either doesn't have Sludge Bomb, he doesn't have Psychic, or he doesn't have a Water move to hit Arcanine. So, we can only do so much scouting. I see right away, though, he has no removal. He has no Regieleki Spin, he has no Noivern Default, and he has no Earthworm, so he has no hazards of his own. So because of that, I'm gonna get up my rocks. I want rocks up. I need to see if this Chien-Pao is banded or if it's boots. This will also allow me to get chip damage on Doshbun, Rillaboom if it is Scarf, and even Slowking. So he goes for another Acid Spray here, so that kind of tells me he doesn't have Sludge Bomb, because he might have just clicked it there instead, or he expected me to pivot out. But the recovery gets me back to full, and according to the calc, they default Slowking having Scald, even though Scald is gone. Surf is much stronger. Surf kills me. Scald doesn't. I think Scald is a roll. And he doesn't know my bulk. I could easily be banded here. And if he isn't Bizdef, which I don't expect him with Bundle, or he's like some mixed variant, Head Smash would just obliterate this thing. So I figured he might just switch into like Doshbun or even Ursaluna here as a way to pivot around Head Smash. So I just go for Rocks. I need this for Chien-Pao, but he decides to stay in. And since the -2 drop with Light Screen, he just one-shots me with Surf. That was pretty bad. I didn't want to trade that for Rocks. And so it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to go into now. But ultimately, with the screens up, I didn't really want to go Dragonite because Earthquake wasn't really going to do anything. So yeah, I went Bundle. Bundle's going to do its job. It's going to break this because even if he is max Spadef, I will be able to see what his moveset is. Like I said, Acid Spray Surf tells me he probably doesn't have one of Sludge Bomb or Psychic. Yeah, because I think he does want Ice Beam for Dragonite. If he has Acid Spray, that tells me he wants to find a way to work around it. So I go in this to kind of just put on pressure right away. I Terra Dark, and I go for Terra Blast here. He has no switch in really to it, and this does 59%. So this tells me he's not fully max Spadef, but he probably is Assault Vest with like some defensive investment or some special attack investment. But he went for Eerie Spell there, so I don't know why he went for a Psychic move. So that definitely tells me he doesn't have Sludge Bomb, because I would have fished for a poison there if I had it. He doesn't have it. That tells me his set is probably Ice Beam last. So Eerie Spell was the Psychic move that drops your PP usage for the move that was currently used. So if I used Hydro Pump, I think it would have dropped my PP like significantly down. So that was interesting, but I turned into a Dark type, so I was immune to the Psychic move. So I saved myself taking a chip there. But he decides to pivot into Volcanion to save his Slowking. And as you can see, this thing takes 43%, which means it's basically close to max Spadef. And that's a big chip damage for me. So I go into Sableye here, because I want to be able to take whatever hit it does. He goes for Scald. No Steam Eruption, but I think they got rid of Steam Eruption, but it still has Scald. Didn't get burned, which is pretty good. I think I make a double here into Screamtail, because I see that my screens are running out. I have 1 turn of Reflect left and 2 turns of Light Screen, but they're both going to be gone in the next turn or 2. So I get it back in so I can set another Reflect up, and this will kind of allow him to get up a Wish. Originally I wanted to click Taunt with Sableye, knowing the Dash Bun would come in so he can't Wish, but I'd rather set up the screens again and not care if he wishes into like Volcanion. But he went Rillaboom for some reason. I thought maybe he should have went Volcanion as I set my light screen here. But yeah, that was really interesting. I didn't understand him going Rillaboom, and I actually blundered here. I forgot the Wish was up, so I didn't realize he took Rocks damage. So when I came in, I saw he was full. I thought he was Boots. So I'm like, oh, he didn't even bring anything for Bundle. He has no Scarfer at all. So Bundle is just a free click every time it comes in. There's nothing that will pressure it out, really. But he brings Rillaboom in. He clicks Brick Break. He removes the screens here. Kind of annoying, but I do have a Sableye that is immune to that. And then Sableye is also immune to Psychic Fang, so I could basically use that as a pivot later if I have to. I don't really care if he keeps clicking Brick Break. It doesn't do anything to me. So I just click Reflect again, because he's not going to do much if he Hammer Arms or whatever. I mean, Wood Hammers, it's not going to do a whole lot. I have a Wish up, and I get up my screens again as he decides to go for the Acid Spray. Doesn't do a whole lot. And yeah, I'm going to speed this up again. But yeah, I get the recovery here, and then I decide to just go back into Sableye here. Can't really do much. Clicks Acid Spray. I get the drops, but I know he doesn't really want to. He needs a Scout knockoff, and he's always going to go Dash Bun every time. And so I figure I can prevent him from wishing the Volcanion this time, since he didn't go into it the first time. So I taunt him, and then at this point I do have the Rocky Helmet. His only way to hit me is Play Rough, so he will be taking chip damage, and I should be able to weaken this. So this is now in range of Dragonite at +1. The Earthquake will kill it. But then I click Recover there, and he crits me through the screen. Sableye dies. That was really annoying, because now I don't have a pivot into Slowking anymore, or Volcanion. I've lost 2 Mons now, because I calced the wrong move and thought I could live a roll, and then Sableye just got crit here. This one hurt a little bit. So now I'm in a position where this Dash Bun, I could have stalled it by clicking Recover and Trick, and he would have died to Helmet. But now it's in here, so it took me a while to think maybe I should go Dragonite, use the remaining turns of screen that I have left to try to set up, since he can't hit me, and then maybe just attack from there. But if Rillaboom sets up terrain at any point, I can't kill the Slowking, and so that's really annoying for me. So I have to, yeah, basically I have to I didn't want to go hands either. I didn't want to take any unnecessary chip versus the PAL that hasn't come in yet. So I ultimately went with bundle. Terra Blast does 35% minimum to a max HP Dash Bun. Does show Protect, so he shows his whole set. He wasn't but Calm Pass. But he so chooses, he can sack this, or he can switch. He makes the right play and sacks it. It's kind of useless at that point. Now he brings in his Rillaboom. This tells me he's Scarf, 100%. Reflect is gone, so he can technically kill me with Wood Hammer, even though I'm not Water type anymore. But I figure he might just U-turn. So I ultimately just go into Scream Tail. I didn't want to go Dragonite yet, in the off chance. I just didn't think he was going to Wood Hammer, not yet. I thought he would U-turn. So he did U-turn. He brings in Slowking. I think I go for Light Screen here because it's my only play. He just shows he doesn't have Sludge Bomb, which would make this exchange so much worse for me, but he just doesn't have it, I guess. I still think Ice Beam was his last move when I was playing. And so I set up my screens again. This is like the 4th time I've set up both screens. So I just go hard bundle. It's my only pivot now. Since I lost Sableye, I have to go into this. He does click the Acid Spray there. And so I'm like, okay, if he does have a move at the bottom, he's gonna click Sludge Bomb. But I think he should have clicked it long time ago. So he's either gonna click Surf or Ice Beam here if he decides to stay in, which he does. Terra Blast does 68%. I did 59 the first time, so these are some crazy rolls that I'm hitting. But as you can see, doesn't two-shot me with Ice Beam because of the terrain, and I should be in a better position here. Just go for Terra Blast again. And I hit the Volcanion, and initially I was debating going Scream Tail here to see if it was worthwhile taking this kill, or I can go into Scream Tail and like kind of just wish and try to stall and reset the screens, but then I was like, you know what, that's just not worth it. But I was scared of potentially PAL being Boots like with Swords Dance, which would be scary. Versus things at the end, especially if screens are starting to expire. But I just took the kill. I figured he's probably going to go Rillaboom again, because PAL, he just doesn't want to take the damage, and I don't know if he calced if I was Choice Specs, but maybe he thought I was like modest with black glasses or something, and his Chi and PAL was adamant. So maybe that was the case for him, but he decides to go Rillaboom here. Screens are still up, so I can actually live the U-turn. I can't live a Superpower. I can't live a Wood Hammer. So at this point, I'm convinced he's probably actually going to click Wood Hammer, but if he clicks U-turn, it's whatever. I'm going to go Dragonite. I need to put on immediate pressure right away. So I expected U-turn, but I thought maybe he might take the kill with Wood Hammer, thinking I could live the hit through screen, but then I made sure to scout that. He did Wood Hammer, which this starts to spell doom for him. Dragonite gets a free Dragon Dance here. Obviously I'm not Roost, but I still have 1 turn of Reflect left after this. So his Body Slams are going to be doing next to no damage. And I debated whether or not to go for another Dragon Dance here, but I see that he was unnerved. So that makes me think he has Ice Punch, and he's trying to break through like Yachi Berry. And I did the calcs, and since I don't have Scale anymore, Ice Punch can kill me if he's like max adamant. So I'm like, I'm just going to take the kill. It kills max HP with Low Kick here. And he ends up beating Choppleberry, and as you can see, he's actually like max defense. It's wild. He goes for Body Slam, and of course, he paralyzes me. So this is really tragic. So I lost Sableye to a crit, which is really unfortunate because it made it harder to pivot around Slowking. But then he gets the first turn Body Slam, and I'm like, just please don't let me get paralyzed here in this next turn. I go for Low Kick. Luckily I break through and I kill his Ursaluna. And at this point I'm like, he can't go Slowking. because even with the terrain, he'll be at 59% with Slowking when he comes in due to rocks. Earthquake still kills. He brings in Rillaboom. He'll be at 68%. I think Extreme Speed could just dunk him as well, and I don't know what other moves he has on this. Maybe he has knockoff, but even then I could probably just click Dragon Dance again so I can get to +2. This +2 Extreme Speed can potentially, will definitely kill Pal after rocks, but if he's boots, then Extreme Speed doesn't kill anyway. So he ends up going Pal, which is kind of what I expected he would do, and he does show he takes rocks. So I think he's banned, 100%. 100% choice ban. Extreme Speed doesn't kill if he has bulk. It could be a roll, but it will do roughly like between 65 and like 75%. So he'll be low, and he'll be in range of Stealth Rock, so you won't be able to switch. I can just revenge him with Bundle, and I can click Terra Blast. Or I can click U-Turn, actually. That was kind of just the idea I had. There was also the chance of me saving it, because if I force Pal out, I can just click Extreme Speed later, but then I'm like, well, I don't really want to pivot into Pal being banded with any of my Mons without screens up, so I'm like, I'm just going to go for Extreme Speed, and pray I break through. And as you can see, I do not break through. And he kills me with Icicle Crash. So he does lock himself Icicle Crash here. So that's good. So he heals himself up with the grassy terrain. And I have three choices here. I can go Bundle and be in a position where I have to click Hydro Pump, which I don't want to do at all. I can go into Screamtail, and just Screamtail will take maximum 52% from banded Icicle Crash. And I can set up a Reflect, and then that will in turn allow me to go into Iron Hands, or I can go directly into Iron Hands, which does not get... Well, he can two-shot me with Icicle Crash, potentially. I think he does. But Drain Punch, I can hit him. But I don't want him to go into like Slowking without me being boosted, and I don't want to risk boosting and having him two-shot me or flinch me. So I think the safest option is to go Screamtail and set up Reflect. It facilitates the rest of the team. So I do go Screamtail here. And he decides to just not even risk it at all, and so he plays a passive turn with Slowking here. Goes into Slowking. I set Reflect. I don't even bother setting Light Screen. He only has this Mon to attack me, and I saw last time he did 47% with Surf and Ice Beam. I know I can live with Bundle if he decides to go for it, but he goes Acid Spray here. I know I can live that, and I definitely kill him with Terra Blast here. And he only has Terra Blast will kill Rillaboom, and if he's bulky, this will live. So it does live, but he is now in range of rocks, and he doesn't outspeed me. So he either clicks Ice Shard here or he clicks Sucker Punch. I figure he would click Ice Shard, but in the off chance he does click like a Crunch or an Icicle Crash, actually, Icicle Crash under Reflect doesn't two-shot Screamtail if he's banded. Like it like does next to nothing. And if he Swords Dance, he's not doing a whole lot either. So I knew I could live any Icicle Crash hit, but he ultimately decides to go for Ice Shard here. The end game is looking great in sight. Hands should be able to clean this up. So I end up just going for the Wish here because I know he's locked into Ice Shard. If he tries to switch, this will die to rocks later. So I might as well just get recovery out of this so I can spend the turns to set up screens again versus Slowking. He does bring in Slowking here. I just go for Light Screen. This will allow Hands to be able to take a hit from it. He only has Eerie Spell to hit Hands, and it's only got 8 PP, so it's like whatever. He goes for Ice Beam here because I clicked Wish. He doesn't want me to pass in the bundle and just pressure him, or really anything else. So I knew I had to use Hands at some point to pivot in. If he clicked Acid Spray, it'd be a little bit more annoying, but with the Pyapa Berry, I knew he really wouldn't be able to pressure me here. So I kind of stalled a bit so I could set up Reflect again and have more turns. He clicks Ice Beam here. I'm gonna get the Wish back here, and then I need a Scout if he goes for another Acid Spray, but he does just go for Ice Beam. I click Wish. I know he's gonna click Ice Beam again because I clicked Wish, so I can go Hands now. I know he's not gonna click Acid Spray. He doesn't freeze me, thank goodness. Hands goes back to full, and at this point it's GG. I just click Swords Dance. I can click Earthquake versus Slowking, and then Drain Punch the Rillaboom. He brings in Rillaboom here. This Brick Break is irrelevant at this point. I still have my Pyoppa Berry for Slowking. Drain Punch kills him. I'm back at full. And then his last mon is just the Slowking. Heavy Slam does 61% to like a non-max defense Slowking. So I was like, oh, Earthquake will two-shot. At this point, it's not like he can hit me with anything else. He's going to go for the freezes, but at this point, I know he's in range of Bundle, so I'm not really too concerned if he killed Hands somehow, as long as I get the damage, but Hands cleans it up. Hands wins the game, and we went at 3-0 over Nick. I know it was a little drawn out, but I just kind of wanted to cover my thought process throughout the game and like my build process, but I think a lot of this came down to he just brought no hazards, which was good because he only had one hazard setter. And the main thing, no Regieleki. I think Rillaboom loses him a ton of momentum because he's forced to click U-turn a lot and not actually any stab. And it doesn't do any damage. It doesn't do any damage. I have a pretty physically defensive team. Regieleki, he basically brought Rillaboom as his bundle check when Regieleki did it, but significantly better and also pressured way more of the team with a stronger set of stats. So I think if we were to play again in the future, I know he would definitely bring Regieleki. Obviously, I revealed the Sableye strat at this point, but maybe down the line, our teams could be a little bit different. His team could be different. I can make free agents potentially. But so far, this was probably it was a really tough matchup for me. I'm glad we were able to persevere. No, ELEKI definitely facilitated it. The hacks, I think, made it a little bit closer for him. Sableye being around would have helped me a lot. And then his Ursaluna was a decent check to Dragonite plus Arcanine. I assume that's what the Chople Berry was mainly for, was close combat, because he was max defense. But him getting the Body Slam para kind of screwed me over because at that point it would have forced the POW to click Ice Shard probably, which would have been easier to pivot around. I might have actually saved it, but I would have guaranteed the damage on POW. Bundle would have just clicked U-turn, and then I can get into Scream Tail and just do what I did with Hands here at the end. And yeah, I think I lost a little bit of differential, but I'm glad I pulled out the win. GG's to Nick. Very interesting build style. And last time I played him, he did beat me and knocked me out of playoff contention. So it was good to get some revenge there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the long explanations of the matchup, the team building process, and the slower process of going through the game. Let me know if you guys want to see it more expedited, or you like hearing all of the little nuances of the matchup. I'll be doing this for every week. Hopefully we can make our push towards the playoffs, but we start 1-0, and next week we're 0-0. Go in there with the mindset to go out 1-0 every week of the WPF. But yeah, I don't know exactly who I'm playing week 2, but you guys will know when we get there. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for week 2.